Hello, everybody. Mark here. Today, we are going to start into marketing. Like I've mentioned before, one of the great things about marketing is everybody's got an opinion. We have all been exposed to it our entire lives. And as a result, we already have opinions about what happens, how to do it, when it's well done, when it's not so well done, etc. So let's jump into it. So we'll look at the concept of marketing and how it affects both profit and nonprofit organizations. Certainly, nonprofit organizations need to market as well. We'll look at the 4Ps, and we'll look at the process involved in looking at the environment and what's happening inside of our marketing environment. So we'll look at the B2C market as well as the B2B market. We'll look at market segmentation and the role of relationship marketing. Certainly, segmentation is super important as it helps us define who our target market is and how we're going to go after them. And the concepts of relationship marketing as well. Super important concepts, super important in the real world, and we'll see why that's important as we get to that section. And we'll look at the impact of studying consumer behavior and how we can help shape our product offerings and our marketing offerings to our customers based on that. So basically, what is marketing? Like every new chapter, again, let's start with definition. Marketing is a set of business practices designed to plan for and present an organization's products and services in ways that build effective consumer relationships. Okay, so it's basically what we do to present our products and services and encourage people to use them and build that relationship up over time. Okay, it is always easier to keep a customer than get a new customer. All right, so we want to use that relationship idea to create an environment where our consumers, the people who buy our products, have an association with us, have a relationship with us, with our products, with our company, with whatever, in order to keep them purchasing from us. And remember, the ultimate goal is to get into our consumers' heads and be the one product that is uniquely qualified to satisfy their specific need. Okay, I keep going back to Crest toothpaste and Heinz ketchup for me, right? I've used those in examples in the past. They are uniquely qualified in my brain as the only choice for toothpaste or ketchup for me. That's where we want to be. Okay. Today, basically, we are about helping our buyer to buy better. Okay. We want to increase their knowledge of our products, specifically in relation to our competitors' products. And we want to use our tools at hand in order to continue to develop that relationship. And that's where social media has become a huge, huge influence factor in marketing. So if we take a quick run through of the history, where we were and where we are, all right? So basically, back in the day, it was all about production. How do we make our production better, right? And this is where concepts like the assembly line came in. And I think it was Henry Ford who said you can have a car in any color you want as long as it's black, right? So not a lot of relationship stuff going on there. It was more about production. Then from the 20s through the 60s, it was very heavily into sales. It was all about selling, 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 selling. Okay, we weren't necessarily concerned at all with making a customer. We were more concerned with what? With making a sale, right? So we would use hard sale tactics. I say we, I wasn't selling stuff in the 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s, up to 60s. I wasn't even born until the 60s. Right? But companies were selling stuff, and it was about selling. There's a lot of hard selling going on in that era, which tended to piss people off. I don't know if you've ever been in a situation where somebody has really tried hard to sell you something. It's generally not an enjoyable experience these days. And then we started more towards the idea of marketing, right? So in the 50s, 60s through the 80s, we had marketing concepts. This is where the glory days of the advertising firms came in. And then we moved to market orientation. We're starting to get more focus on the customer now. Okay, and from there, we concurrently are in with the social media side of things as well. Certainly having a decent social media presence is a given these days. If you're trying to marketing anything to anybody under 50, that's for sure. So social marketing. It's a term given to websites and tools that allow users to interact with each other in some way, sharing information, opinion, knowledge, or interests. Right? The ability to comment on blog posts, for instance. The ability to create a company-based website inside of Facebook. For instance, these would be aspects of social marketing, and they heavily overlap with social media marketing, right? So I don't totally agree with their definition of social media marketing here, as that's consumer-generated online marketing efforts. It's not always consumer-generated, right? We do have company-based Instagram accounts. People tend to take the word of well-known influencers over the company. Okay, so let's go through that. If I am a company and I promote a product, people will see my feed on Instagram or whichever social media network, and they'll go, oh yeah, that's interesting. But if they see LeBron James using my product, or LeBron James saying, hey, this is a great product, that tends to carry a bigger bang for the buck for several reasons. One is a celebrity factor. Certainly, if we like LeBron James, then we like LeBron James, and it's like, well, if he's using it, I feel closer to LeBron James if I'm using it too. That's one aspect. The other aspect that doesn't get talked about as much, particularly when we're dealing with celebrity influencers, is third-party validation. Third-party validation has a huge impact on people's behavior. And what do I mean by third-party validation? Well, I'm the company. I'm trying to sell the product. If a third party, that is somebody who is not necessarily directly associated with my company, promotes the product or says this is a good product, that increases the quality of their comment because they are not technically associated with the company. They say, hey, this is a great product. All right. So very often they are paid to do that, right? But still, there's the third party and the celebrity aspect coming in there. So what else? Nonprofits do some amazing work, and they do amazing work with not a lot of resource. So what are some ways that nonprofits need to market or have marketed? Well, we need to raise money if we're a not-for-profit, right? No money, no company, right? In the same vein, I've told you before, no money, we can't expand our business, right? If we have no money, we can't do the good work that our charity wants to do, okay? So we need to raise money as a charity, as a not-for-profit. That's one way we market. Blood donors are recruited using marketing. Certainly at certain times of the year, sometimes we'll hear ads for blood donations are required. There are certain times a year when there might be more accidents. In the wintertime in Canada, there are times when our blood donations or our blood supply gets low. And so we can advertise and market and try and recruit people to donate blood. What else? Environmental groups using marketing to try and cut carbon emissions. Certainly, we can use marketing to educate and to raise the profile of a cause. Okay, we see that all the time. What else? Churches use marketing to get new members to the congregation and to raise money for themselves. Politicians use marketing to get votes. Certainly with the recent elections in the United States as well as in British Columbia, all kinds of marketing going on there. Provinces use marketing to attract new businesses and tourists. We see this all the time in Canada, having marketing campaigns to come visit our province. Why? Because people who come to our province will spend money and help the local economy. And schools can use marketing to attract new students. Some of you may have found this university by learning about it through the university's marketing efforts in one way or another, or by third-party marketing efforts in one way or another. Universities will very often hire third parties to recruit and promote the university in other countries. So very often, if you are an international student, you may have had an example of being marketed to by a third company. So what goes into our marketing program? Certainly product. Product satisfies a want or a need. Price, what the customer pays for the product. Place, where they can purchase the product. Promotion, how they've been informed about the product, or how we inform as the company inform our customers about, or potential customers about the product. Okay, so those are the things that go into our marketing mix: product, price, place, promotion. So as a marketing manager, as somebody in control of that, we need to make definitive decisions about all four of those. Okay, so what is the idea behind it? Well, the idea behind it is to make sure our customers' needs and wants are satisfied, and to ensure that we are continuing to make money. Remember, no money, no business, right? So we need to continue to make money. So making concrete decisions about those 4 Ps has an impact on, a huge impact on our business and whether or not we actually survive. Okay, just move me out of the way here. So let's look at some different aspects here. So what do? Find opportunities, conduct research, identify a target market. Okay, identify a product that meets the needs based on our research over here. Do some testing that includes brand name, design, packaging, etc. Set a price, figure out a distribution system, design a promotional program, and build relationships with customers. Right? So we can see where product, price, place, and promotion have an impact here. Right? So we find opportunities, conduct research, identify a target market. That leads to what? Our product. So we design a product that meets the needs based on the research. Then what? Eventually we come up with a point where we need to set a price, i.e. how much are we going to charge, based on all kinds of factors that we've previously talked about. We need to figure out how we are going to get our product out. Are we going to sell it on Amazon? Are we going to sell it direct to consumers? Are we going to go through traditional retail like Walmart? Okay, how are we going to do that? And then promotion, how are we going to tell our customers? How are we going to get that information out and shared with our customers? Okay, and then ultimately, yes, building relationships with customers. So products and services, different things. Okay, remember that products are goods, things we can touch. Services are intangible, we can't touch them. So if we look at one end of teaching versus SALT in this continuum, okay, teaching is 100% service. Okay, we go back, it's intangible. You can't separate the provider from the delivery of the service, right? SALT, completely a good, right? We buy it, it's there. So we see in between. You know, salt, necktie, dog food, they're all goods, and I'm not quite sure why salt would be more of a tangible than a necktie. Same thing with theater, nursing, and teaching. I'm not sure why teaching should be more of a service dominated than theater. But let's look at some in the middle here. So what do we have? A tailored suit. Okay, what is a tailored suit? Well, it's a suit you buy, so it's a good, but tailored means they have customized it. They have made it fit specifically for me. So a relationship there between the good and the service, right? And so we can look at any product and look at the relationship of how much is service versus how much is good. Okay. So, where do we get our information from? We need to do research, right? So, in that research, we want to figure out what the challenges and opportunities are. Why? Well, we want to make a good decision, right? And in order to make a good decision, we do need some information, right? And from that information, we'll be able to assess, is this a real opportunity? What are some of the things that might be roadblocks to us getting it done? Okay. So in that process of doing our marketing research, we want to figure out what the question is we're really trying to answer, right? That's the defining this question bullet point here, number 2, right? What are we really trying to ask? And defining that question can potentially have a huge impact down the road, because defining that question will actually determine how you're going to collect the data, how we're going to analyze said data, and look at what we can do to implement it. Okay, so a lot of people will gloss over defining our marketing question, but spending an appropriate amount of time to make sure you've got the right question to ask is important. So there's 2 types of data we can go after. Primary data is stuff I get myself. Okay, I do the research, I go out, I find it, I develop it, I talk to people. It might be survey data. Right? So that's primary data. Anything I go out and figure out to gather myself. Secondary data is data that's already happened. Okay, it's stuff that exists. I can go buy it. I can research it. I can Google it. Okay, so what are some of the differences? Some of the differences are that primary data is expensive because it takes a long time, and I have to do it. Okay. Secondary data exists already, and I can just go buy it. So primary data will take me longer, cost me more money. Secondary data is available now, and I can go buy it. Okay. So what are the implications? Well, primary data, I can get the exact data I want. Okay. If I want to know how much ramen university students eat in Kamloops, I can figure out a way to create a program to gather that data and get that data for me. Maybe there is some secondary data that gives us a province-wide distribution. What do I mean by that? Well, maybe somebody did a study of ramen consumption in university students in Canada, and we can get provincial level data. I can get BC data, how much ramen university students eat in British Columbia. That's secondary data. I could get it immediately. It might be inexpensive compared to the amount of time and effort it'll take me to get my own data, but it is not Kamloops data. It is British Columbia data, right? So there are some pluses and minuses to both of them. So how do we get data if we're looking for it from a primary source? Well, we can survey our potential customers. We can email them. We can hard copy mail them. That still happens sometimes. We can phone them. We can do online surveys. We can have focus groups. We can do one-on-one interviews. We can go observe people in an environment. I could go stand in the ramen soup aisle in the grocery store and watch how many packages of ramen people throw in their cart, right? So there's various ways we can get that primarily. Secondary sources are everywhere, right? Newspapers, information we already have inside of our company, internal sources, all kinds of public directories. Some we have to pay for, some we don't. We can go to trade sources, right? We can look at those places that do research on trade and investment and things that we might get access to. We can look in journals, marketing, consumer resource, small business management, the Journal of Ramen. I don't know if there's a Journal of Ramen, but maybe there is. You know what? I'm actually going to see if I can Google that. Hang on. Okay, so there isn't exactly a academic journal devoted to ramen, but there is all different kinds of ramen resources. This is what I got off of Pinterest for ramen journal. Anyway, plus there are all kinds. Okay, so all different kinds of places we can go. There's databases we can go to. The CanSIM databases, I use this quite frequently. This is the database for Statistics Canada. Factiva, LexisNexis, there's all different kinds of places. So that's primary, secondary data. So what else do we need to know about? Well, we certainly are concerned with the environment with which we work, okay? So what is the environment? Well, if we look at these aspects of it, let's start with legal. Okay, so what are the implications of the legal environment? Well, certainly, what kind of tax laws exist? Right. There are a lot of American companies who have their headquarters in Delaware. Why? Because the state tax laws in Delaware are such that it is a good place for you to create your business. Tax laws in different countries as well. We could set up an environment where our international operations would be in a tax place that doesn't charge a lot of corporate tax. Okay, again, reducing our tax liability and potentially increasing our profit. Also, contract laws. Where are we doing business and whose contract law is prevalent? Okay, this is a common thing in business contracts that go across international boundaries. Inside that contract, they will generally set where they want the contract law to take precedence. And in my experience, working with companies out of the United States, the Americans always want American contract law because that's what they know and that's what they want. And so very often there is a tug of war between whose law are we going to use? Are we going to use Canadian law? Or are we going to use US law? Here's my thought on that. And this is the way I, in practice, did it, is if I'm not planning on breaking the contract, I'm not planning on doing anything bad. So if something goes wrong with the contract, chances are it will be my partner in the other country. So let's go the American-Canadian contract. So I have a contract with Americans and something bad happens and I need to sue them. Okay. So if we have US law, yes, it's going to cost me more to hire American lawyers to go to the US to sue them. But here's the thing. If I win and I win in a US court, is the US company likely to pay me or abide by the decision? Yes. If I win in a Canadian court against an American company, are they more or less likely to abide by this decision? Well, they are probably less likely to abide by the decision. So personally, I didn't have too much of an issue having contracts stated that we would follow American law because if I wanted to sue them, I was more likely to be able to enforce anything from an American court to an American company. So that was my thought. Other companies had different thoughts. Other people did it differently. And lastly, elimination of corruption. Certainly, there are lots of places in the world where corruption exists, including Canada. Corruption exists everywhere to the different extents in different places and within different companies. Certainly, a Canadian company has been in trouble over the last few years, SNC-Lavalin, which is a large Canadian company, and they're in trouble because over a 10-year span, they bribed officials in Libya to the tune of about $50 million. And so that was the price that they had felt they had to pay in order to do business in Libya. And so that recently came to light, and SNC-Lavalin is in trouble in Canada for bribing officials in Libya. So the legal environment, need to be very well aware of what's going on there and the impacts that can have on our company. The economic environment, okay? So what is going on with the economy in general, right? Is the economy up? Is the economy down? I may have spoken before about a acquaintance I met who owned a lot of car dealerships, and in his retirement he went down to two. He went down to a Toyota or Honda and a Mercedes. And his comment was that you've got the gotta have and the want to have. Okay, so if you need a car, you need a reliable car at a reasonable price, go for the Japanese Toyota or Honda. Those will always sell well. Okay, but in good economies, the Mercedes will sell well because people feel better, they have more money, they're more willing to buy the luxury item. Right? So what is the economic environment with which we're working, and how does our product fit into that? Okay. Currency shifts, again, let's start. Currency shifts can have a huge impact on your business. Okay, what do I mean by that? Well, one thing that we pay very close attention to in Canada is what the exchange rate with the US dollar is. Okay, so $1 US will buy $1.30 Canadian. Okay, what does that mean? That means that in Canada, we can export our products to the United States, and we can do it at a very cost-effective price for Americans. Okay. What happens when the dollar gets down to $1 Canadian equals $1 American? Okay. Well, that's good for Canada and good for Canadian consumers because we can buy American products much less expensively. We can travel to the US and go on vacation much less expensive, well, when the border was open, and the prices are reasonable. When it's $1.30, when it takes $1.30 Canadian to buy $1 US, buying American products is expensive, and traveling to the US or vacationing in the US is also expensive. Okay, so at $1.30, however, guess what? Americans like to buy Canadian products, and Americans will like to visit Canada. And what else? In British Columbia, we have a very vibrant television and movie industry. And at $1.30, guess what? That industry is booming. When the exchange rate is 1-to-1, that industry is not booming. Why? Because the Americans don't get a discount when they come and do work in Canada. Okay, so currency shift can change the price of our product in whatever country we are trying to sell in. It can literally take it from being a product that is profitable to a product that's unprofitable, or vice versa. Okay. Technology. Oh, sorry. Economic systems. Let's finish with economic systems. Certainly in business, we like capitalistic systems, but we need to realize that it's not capitalist all across the world. Right? Socialist systems have different ways of marketing, different ways of doing things, and certainly communist systems as well. So economic systems, we need to be aware of, are we trying to sell into that environment, or are we trying to buy out of that kind of environment? Okay, technology. Technology changes everything, and it has changed everything and will continue to do so moving forward. It is very easy to get information these days. I'm pretty sure every single one of you at one point, probably in the last month, has stood in front of a product in a store and Googled it to see if they could find a better price, or to find some information on it, or to do something. Okay, so technology is ever present and ever changing, and guess what? It has an impact on your experience as a purchaser and our experience as a vendor. Right? We have access to all of these databases as well. And there is so much information being collected on us, not only individually, but in bigger aggregate fashions. right? And like I've mentioned before, Save On knows I am a married man in my 50s who has two close to teenage kids. And so what do they do with that? They aggregate all of that data and say, hey, what do families that have two close to teenage kids tend to eat, right? And so they will use that information in the aggregate to try and create marketing campaigns, to try and target market, to see if I am a target market for a specific product. Okay? And of course, all of this technology is available instantly online. The amount of stuff we can do with our phones is amazing, and we'll continue to do that. Things will get easier and easier to do with our phones as we continue to go on. Social environment. Okay. What is the level of diversity in our target market? Okay. I started to work at TRU, give or take, about 10 years ago. And we have seen our level of diversity change. One of the things we see in the business school is we now see a much larger proportion of international students. We have also seen some of the demographics of that international student population change. At times, the largest group of international students were from China. At other times, the largest group of international students were from India. At another time, our largest group of international students were from Saudi Arabia. Okay, so demographic changes I've seen one-on-one or personally at the university here, right? But what is the impact of demographic changes within a city? Okay, I look at an area that I grew up in Ottawa. I grew up in Ottawa, and the demographics of that area have changed. When I was a kid there, guess what? There were kids everywhere in that neighborhood, right? It was a thriving neighborhood for families with young children. Okay, that neighborhood now has closed its public school. Why? Because people with young children can't afford to buy those houses anymore. Okay, so that is a demographic shift, right? And we can see demographic shifts everywhere. I told you about the university. Well, guess what? That demographic shift also had an impact on Kamloops business. Okay, when I first got here, you'd go into the superstore, which is a big grocery store that many students shop at. You go into the superstore and you would have a tough time finding products that catered to any kind of international palate. Now they have an international aisle where they have products from other countries where they are trying to meet the needs and the tastes, the different tastes of people from different areas of the world. And family changes. Here's something else we have seen as well. Okay, we've seen a shift in Canada of when people have children. People have children in Canada at a much older age than they did 50 or 60 or 70 years ago. Okay, 60 or 70 years ago, if you were 23, 24 years old and were single, and even if you were married and didn't have children, that was odd. Okay, now most people in Canada are having children at older ages. Okay, what else have we seen? We have seen a change in the mother, father, children paradigm as well. So we have seen it's not just mother, father, children. Families are same sex. Families are individuals. So we have a larger number of single parent households. We have a larger number of partnering that is non-traditional male woman or male woman, male female. And so that has changed our social environment. Okay, what does that mean from a marketing perspective? Well, it potentially gives us different segments to target to, different ways to approach new types of family environments. Okay. Competitive environment. Okay. So we need to be aware of what our competition is doing. Okay. We need to be aware of what our competition is doing. This is something that has affected some of you in the CEO game. Okay. I have gotten a few comments in the past about, hey, you know, we did pretty well in the practice round and we used the same strategy in the round that matters and we're at the bottom of the list. And I literally got this question, have you changed any of the parameters? No, I haven't. The game is run in the second iteration exactly like it is in the first. What has changed is what your competition is doing. Okay, I did try to warn people about that before, but it's hitting home for some people, right? So competition has a huge impact. Okay, so what does this mean? Well, this is the environment with which we are trying to operate in. And then what are the 4 P's that we need to make decisions on? Product, price, place, promotion. And then all those wrap around our customer. Right? So it's pretty complex, actually. There's a lot of things to do and to be aware of. So B2C and B2B. Okay. Consumers. What is our consumer market? It is any individual or household that uses goods or services for their own personal use. Okay. You are part of a consumer market. I am part of a consumer market. B2B. That is a market where the organization that we are a part of requires goods and services. And we buy those from other organizations or companies, right? B2B, B2C, things you know. And the one in the middle here, cause marketing. Okay, cause marketing is the promotion and marketing of their products in relation to a cause. Where do we see this? In Canada, we have CIBC Run for the Cure. Okay. CIBC promotes a cause and donates to the cause and is associated with the cause. So CIBC Run for the Cure. Okay. We can also use it in a slightly different manner. For instance, we can say, you know, 5% of our profits are going to the SPCA. Okay, so if you buy our product, we will give 5% of our products to the Society for Prevention of Cruelty to Animals. That is another avenue of cause marketing. Okay, and we see those on occasions as well. Very often you'll see restaurants. Today is X Day. So whatever we sell today, all our profits will go to whatever the X charity is. They do that at places like Tim Hortons or McDonald's. So let's look at buying behavior in B2B and B2C. Right? So if we look at market structure, B2C, we have a lot of potential customers, right? We have the whole world, people buying stuff for themselves to use. What does that mean? That means that they're probably going to buy less than a big company, right? Look at the university versus you. If I need a chair, guess what? I'm going to go buy probably 1 chair. Oh, maybe 4 chairs. There's 4 people in my family. If I'm buying chairs for the kitchen, I might buy 4 chairs or 6 chairs, right? I will not probably ever buy more than 8 chairs at a time in my life. Okay, that's probably the upper limit of the number of chairs I'll buy at once. Okay, guess what? University needs to buy chairs. Are they buying 1 or 2 or 6 or 8? No, they're probably buying dozens, if not hundreds. Okay, so B2B, generally much larger purchases, generally what? Less number. There are fewer universities than there are individuals, for instance, right? So a lot more customers B2C and a lot fewer customers in B2B. What else? Our customers can literally be anywhere, whereas our businesses are generally concentrated, right? So our large businesses tend to be concentrated. Think of where there's universities. There's universities in every major town in Canada, okay? Guess what? There are people way more places than there are the number of universities, right? Or where the universities are. What else? For a B2B sale, it generally requires a much more technical aspect to it, even when we're buying chairs, right? The requirements for a chair in the university setting are way more complex than the requirements for me to put 4 chairs around my dining room table. For something as simple as that, but let's take it the next level. Let's talk about computers, right? I buy a computer. It is a computer for me. It only has to do what I need it to do, right? We buy computers for the university. Well, guess what? They're all networked. Their servers are much more complex. They have much more diverse needs. It requires the ability for everything to talk to each other in a specific way, okay? What else? At the B2B level, very often things require customization. Our network's a little different than UBC's network, so we need to customize that network interface, right? At home, well, not as much customization, if at all, right? I have a fairly complex network at home, but that's because I'm a techie, okay? And I can do that myself. What else? B2B frequently require technical advice, delivery, and after sale. Okay. Generally, when universities buy stuff, it involves a large service proportion, aid in setting it up, technical guidance, after sale support. Okay. For our own personal stuff, it may require some of that, but nowhere near the same level, if at all. Okay. Buying. Right? As consumers, we buy what we want, when we can afford it, et cetera, et cetera. Right? We don't need any training. Well, in a B2B market, our specific buyers in our purchasing department have to be trained, and there's certifications for purchasers. So you can go get certified to be a purchaser. What else? Prices are far more negotiable in a B2B environment. And the process is very formalized. I've mentioned before, I believe, that when the university buys something over a certain dollar amount, $50,000, let's say, they have to do what's called a request for proposal, which means that the university scopes out what it needs, how much it needs, what the requirements are. And it says we need, 50 computers, they all have to be an i5, they all have to have 2 gigs of RAM, they all have to have this, they all have to have this, yada, yada, yada. And then they put that out and people will bid on it. So companies like Microsoft or Dell or whoever will say, okay, I'll supply you these computers under these specs for this amount of money. And the university is required by law to take the lowest priced bid or proposal that meets the needs. Okay. So much more formalized. What do? We go out and buy what we want when we want. We may do some research, but we don't have to. Okay. We generally don't have any kind of relationship with who's selling us stuff. Sometimes we do, but very often we don't. Whereas in a B2B setting, we want to develop that relationship. In a B2C setting, the company wants to develop a relationship with me in my mind, right? They want me to think, oh, Dell, those are the only computers I'll ever buy. Okay, but that's probably not as a direct result of me developing a relationship with Bob, who works for Dell, right? Whereas in a business-to-business setting, we will develop relationships with people that will make that relationship with the company much more solid. Okay. What else? In a B2B situation, very often we have pre-approved sellers. So if I need, a pack of pens, I can immediately just go to Staples because the university has approved me buying pens from Staples. Okay. I can't actually go to Staples and buy my own pens. I have to ask somebody else to buy pens for me, but you get the idea. They will go to Staples and buy me the pens that I need. And as a consumer, when I buy pens, I can go anywhere I want. Okay. And I will probably get them less expensive than the university.